Hello everyone, this is Jenny Jimenez speaking. Thanks Leo for the invitation. Always a pleasure to take part in a conversation with enthusiastic pre-service teachers and future educational leaders. I've been invited to share with you some practical reflections on ways or techniques or tips to engage and motivate teachers and educational leaders to keep going in these times when we are facing an unprecedented world health crisis. And what you're seeing now is basically what our life has become, right? We're seeing tips everywhere. We're being invited to stay active at home. We're being invited to take care with things that we never probably even thought about before. And we still have to keep going in these times, right? The first reflection that I'd like to share with you is no matter the circumstances, I think what is true about motivation and engagement for teachers is the same under these circumstances. What we have learned about the educational system is that worldwide we have been able to adapt faster than other sectors. Although all of us just simply have to do it, we've been able to adapt a little bit faster. So what I think is, just as it's happening now with this conversation that I would probably be invited to have in a room full of teachers or pre-service teachers, I've been invited to do this in video. And then you have to think again and adapt, but it's just about the same thing. So first reflection is probably what we have been doing for the past 3 weeks, supporting from my position as academic coordinator. My role is to develop pieces, tools to talk to coordinators and area leaders so that we can sort of make it easier for them to cope with the crisis. And what we have used is basically the same thing that we've been doing before. Is let's go back to those principles of professional development that generate engagement and motivation for teachers. So what I'd like to share with you is reflections on what I think has changed or how this has been altered. And what we developed from Cambridge is this model of 7 principles of effective professional development. And where did we take this from? Well, we took it from conversations, focus groups, observations of teachers and educational leaders. So what we have learned is transferable across segments. It's transferable across sectors, and it's transferable across countries. So I'd like to refer a little bit to these 7 principles. So what we do now is an emergency plan, basically. An emergency plan that all our kindergartens, all the universities, all the secondary schools, all the primary schools are implementing now. So what we're doing is setting like a trend in crisis times. We were asked to take our face-to-face classes to a remote environment. And what we're doing basically follows these 7 principles. What we do has to be impactful. What has changed is where we have the impact. Because we used to think about how to motivate students in a classroom. Now we need to think about what we design to motivate our students at home, right? What's interesting about what's happening now regarding the second principle is that our professional development and the things that we are needing to learn immediately, it's needs-based. So basically, when from my position we would offer teachers training in how to become a good digital teacher, everyone was very interested in learning about it. but no one really or truly cared. Now we've seen a higher demand in this type of courses. Let me share with you some of the courses that we have in Future Learn that are connected to how to teach online. So very likely some of you have taken one of these courses. One of the ones that we truly recommend is our own course, Teaching English Online, and Transforming Digital Learning, Learning Design meets Service Design. And all of these courses have gained this importance now because of the situation. So I'm going to go back to when we feel that there's something that is needed, we feel more motivated. It also has to be a sustained process. So it's not just I'm learning how to teach online because of the situation and then I'm forgetting about it. So what we have seen in institutions is this raised interest from teachers to learn about things that they probably didn't want to learn before because of the need. But the next thing and the next reflection that I want to make about the next principle of what's effective is that it has to be peer and collaborative. The institutions that have managed to very quickly adapt to remote lessons using an online conferencing tool like Zoom or Hangouts are doing okay in the service, but their teachers don't seem to be very motivated because they feel they are working by themselves, right? So what we have seen that works again in this adverse situation is to have some collaboration amongst teachers. So it's one group of teachers takes one course and then they summarize what they truly feel is essential for the whole group of teachers. When you feel that you're doing something essential, it's like what we see now in the news with the health workers, you feel more motivated naturally. It's very important, for example, or something that we've seen in these past 3 weeks that works very well, is that the institution has a leader or has different leaders in doing different things. Let me explain myself. So what we see is that teachers feel more motivated if the educational leader, the coordinator, or the principal assigns them a role. You're going to be in charge of making Zoom sessions work. So when you feel you have a responsibility, there are more chances that what you're doing, that you assign a value or a higher value to what you're doing, right? The next principle is in practice. And as I said before, everything that we do, I mean, we don't learn anything just because there's a fancy ad that says that that's important to learn. We learn something because we feel we can use it. So what I've seen is in my mailbox, a lot of messages asking, hey, Jenny, how can I use this or how can I use that? Teach me, show me, because now in my practice, this is what I need. And there's the reflection part, and part of what I wanted to share with you today is that I don't think that we have come to the point in which we can reflect, because basically what we needed to do in this situation is to react. But we are coming to the reflection moment. What you will see and what I see is a lot of people surveying teachers, a lot of people surveying educational leaders, asking them, how are you doing this? What worked for you? What didn't work for you? Then we will come to the point where we can evaluate what has happened. And that, I think, is going to happen very fast, probably even next week. So just to close this idea, what I feel is the sources of motivation for teachers to keep going, which is basically the question, don't differ that much for what kept teachers motivated in the past. When teachers feel that they are part of something well structured, they are more likely to be engaged, to be motivated. And probably you're now wondering, how do we know that? What we have seen that is very clear, and it's measurable statistically, I mean, is that when an educational institution has a professional development program that is well structured, in which teachers see that they are part of something important. Let's call it, it can be a bilingual program in which all teachers know they are part of a process in which the institution is transitioning to bilingualism, or they see that they have an annual development plan. They see a beginning and an end to it. They are recognized through getting a diploma or getting an internal recognition. When they see that there's organization, they're more likely to stay motivated. I think part of the probably burnout that we saw happening throughout the networks of teachers and other people in the academic community the first week after the lockdown, that for Colombia was March 16th, was pretty logical because we didn't know what we were doing. So after a week, when people start thinking and developing programs, developing a structure to what they're doing, then things get a little better. The second reflection that I like to share is that right now, a lot of people, a lot of experienced teachers and a lot of experienced people in education are developing interesting stuff because teachers need more support than before. And I'm going to go back to the fourth principle here. Peer collaboration that used to be very close inside institutions. What we've seen is that with the COVID-19 situation, institutions have opened their doors, their digital doors, and they are getting a lot of support from everywhere. So I like to share a couple of things. I've already shown you the number of courses that sites for MOOCs like Future Learn have now to offer. But it's not just that. Like in Colombia, for example, what we see is that the Ministry of Education is giving support to teachers. And interestingly, teachers from the private sector are also using these tools. So it doesn't really matter where it comes from now. Where we used to, I think it's important, and I've always considered it important to have a couple of trusted sources of information. What happened during the first 2 weeks is that everyone went out to open pages and teach webinars with support, right? And that support has been divided in, let me give you tips, let me give you articles, and let me show you how you can stay like sane, or how you can fight insanity these days. But then what we've seen is increasingly interesting programs. Let me show you something that, for example, some of the schools that I support have been using. So it doesn't matter now if it's from the public or from the private sector. We're using all of this because we feel we need it. So again, that needs-based principle is something essential when you want to stay motivated. Teachers who feel outside, those teachers who are, for example, not necessarily good with technology, are the ones that are suffering. But what I see is that in the institutions, they are being helped. As I said before, they have started like to have digital leaders or people who are more into digital tools helping them. And stuff like this is something that helps a lot. I also wanted to show you that this support is sometimes teachers feel that they are doing things by themselves, right? And organizations like the Ministry of Education or the publishing house I work for spend a lot of resources in creating fantastic things for teachers to bring into their classes, but we still see teachers who are not using them properly. I think the other reflection that we can make is that now curation of this material is something that every teacher is doing. What works for me, right? What we need to make sure to help groups of teachers stay motivated, stay engaged, is like to have an organization that ensures that two teachers in the same institution are not curating the same pieces. So educational leaders, what has worked so far with at least the institutions that I've been able to support is they distribute the tasks.